So, how you feel?
I'll start.
Yeah, go ahead.
My takeaway is that the system works. We live in a democracy. People spoke. This is what people wanted. I vehemently disagree with the decision that Americans made, but I feel very, very hopeful that we have a democratic system in this country. We should value it. We should love it. We should protest if the situation arises that we need to protest, which I'm sure it will. And I've been through this before with Nixon. It's been very difficult, but boy, oh boy, do we have a country if we can keep it.
Yeah.
The American voter wanted to take their country back, and we will soon see what that means. There are levels of sexism and racism that clearly a lot of people in this country are willing to tolerate, which is also something that, you know, we may have woken up in the same country in a sense, but that becomes much more clear this morning. I would also say that there were conversations for over a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks about how black men weren't doing their part. Black people did their part and did everything they needed to do, including the black woman who ran. So this isn't, and going to a point that Mike Memoli had made earlier, this isn't a democratic problem per se, because it's not a problem that can be solved with a campaign. These are deep-rooted issues in our country that we absolutely need to address.
All right, guys, so as promised in my first video, today is going to be the day of covering the meltdowns from the liberal media, okay? Because the meltdowns are coming in, they're rolling in, and one of the main meltdowns that I know that people were looking forward to watching, okay? This is probably going to be the most watched meltdown on television, which is the meltdown from the cackling hens on The View, because as expected, they're not handling this loss for Kamala Harris too well, right? And the show went exactly as you would expect, with them boohoo whining and crying about Trump winning and how all of their rights are going to be taken away, and finger pointing and, you know, blaming people based off race in regards to why Kamala Harris lost. Take a look.
I don't know. I'm profoundly disturbed. I think if you look at the New York Times this morning, the headline was "America makes a perilous choice." I think that in 2016, we didn't know what we would get from a Trump administration, but we know now. And we know now that he will have almost unfettered power. And so I worry not about myself, actually. I don't worry about my station in life. I worry about the working class. I worry about my mother, a retired teacher. I worry about our elderly and their Social Security and their Medicare. I worry about my children's future, especially my daughter, who now has less rights than I have. And I remember my father telling me many, many years ago that I was the first person in his family to enjoy full civil rights. And now I have less civil rights than I had when he told me that. So again, I'm profoundly disturbed that the 14th Amendment of the Constitution did not prevent someone who participated in an insurrection from becoming president of the United States. I think that going forward, the convicted felon box on employment applications better be taken off, because if you can be the president of the United States, then you should not be prevented from employment in this country, because I remember applying for my jobs as a federal prosecutor, and there was a box for convicted felons.
Well,
and so that box better be taken off. And I think our healthcare system is now at risk. I think
no fluoride for anyone.
Yeah, economists have made clear that he's going to increase the debt by $7.75 trillion. I'm worried about mass deportation and internment camps, and I'm also worried about Elon Musk warning Americans to prepare for temporary hardship. I'm surprised at the result, but I'm not surprised. As a woman of color, I was so hopeful that a mixed-race woman married to a Jewish guy could be elected president of this country. And I think that it had nothing to do with policy. I think this was a referendum of cultural resentment in this country.
Well, you know, I think it has to do with a lot of things, that being one of them. I'm obviously very disappointed. I'm very sad. I was at the Kamala Harris headquarters yesterday in Washington, and it was a very sad scene. The mood turned immediately.
Well, I want to dig further into the demographics because black women tried to save this country again last night. 92% of black women voted for the vice president. You have Latinas in the 70 percentile voting for the vice president. What we did not have is white women who voted about 52%, right, for Donald Trump. Uneducated white women, is my understanding. You have Latino men, actually, voting more for him. And you have, and black men was not the story. We're not the story here because they voted almost 80% for the vice president.
Right.
So why do you think that uneducated white women voted against their reproductive health freedoms? And why do you think Latino men voted in favor of someone that's going to deport, says he's going to deport the majority of his community?
White women like being called uneducated white women. I think the economy matters, national security matters. But when you put people in these boxes, I think that's a takeaway from this race.
We have to look at the demographics of it.
Yeah, so once again, we have the cackling hands on the View, specifically Sunny Halston, being unable to analyze politics or to figure out why things didn't go her way without bringing up race, right? And I find it hilarious because Alyssa Fair Griffin actually pushed back against Sunny Holston a little bit. Maybe Alyssa Fair Griffin will stop being such a grifter and actually, I don't know, give conservative viewpoints on The View now that Trump has won. I don't know. But again, I'm surprised that she pushed back. And she pushed back in a way that she should have pushed back by saying, yeah, you can't keep doing that. You can't just keep smearing people based off race and gender and putting people in these boxes, right? Because that's part of the reason why Kamala Harris lost, okay? And I want to expand on that, but it's not just The View. You also have MSNBC. They're also boohoo, whining, crying, hating bigotry, sexism, racism, all this stuff as reasons for why Kamala Harris lost. Take a look.
I just say, Rev, really quickly, too. Democrats need to be mature, and they need to be honest. And they need to say, yes, there's misogyny. But it's not just misogyny from white men. It's misogyny from Hispanic men.
Right.
It's misogyny from black men, things we've all been talking about, who do not want a woman leading them. Might be race issues with Hispanics. They don't want a black woman as president of the United States. You know, the Democratic Party, I've always found when you're sitting around talking, they love to just sort of balkanize everybody into these separate groups and say, oh, white people don't like women and black people. No, it is time for the Democrats to say, okay, and you and I have talked about this before, a lot of Hispanic voters have problems with black candidates.
Right.
A lot
and
of,
with other Hispanics. You got some that don't like each other. And some of the most misogynist things I've heard going on this Get Out the Vote tour came from black men. I mean, misogynist things. So you're absolutely right. It's not simplistic. And we've got to have real honest conversations about it.
Real honest conversations.
Wow. 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 Yo, this is hilarious. This is hilarious. Guys, the Democrats, the liberal media, they're doubling and tripling down on the same type of identity politics and buffoonery, which led to Kamala Harris losing. Okay? Again, this is the part about the Democrat Party and the liberal media that really gets me. They don't have the ability to reflect. They do not have the ability to admit that, hey, we're wrong. That identity politics is just not as popular as it once was in this country. Because this election was about identity politics. Because Democrats made it about identity politics. As soon as Kamala Harris got into the race became about identity politics. Okay? And it just so happens that the identity politics game that the Democrats tried to play, it didn't work. Because people are getting fed up. They're sick of the identity politics games that Democrats try to play, especially along the lines of race, sex, gender, sexuality. All of these things were rejected by the electorate this election. It was a rejection of identity politics. Because, again, Democrats tried to get this magical coalition of women to support Kamala Harris, but it didn't work, right? It didn't work. Well, why didn't it work? It's because it's the economy, stupid. It's the actual issue, stupid. And see, here's the thing. These people really believe that, oh, well, we can rally women to defeat Trump based off abortion. Well, it turns out what a lot of women have figured out is that the issue of the economy and abortion is not the same, right? They're actually two separate issues. That, hey, I can vote for Trump because of the economy, and I can also vote for abortion in my state, and they're two separate things, which is what happened all across the country. And that's what pisses these people off so much, because they tried to brainwash women into thinking that, oh, no, you should vote for 4 more years of a terrible economy and open borders because you got to protect abortion, right? Which, again, is just ridiculous nonsense. Ridiculous nonsense, because abortion is not a federal issue. They thought the American people were dumb. They thought that black people were dumb. They thought that they could throw out a fake black woman and play the whole, oh, well, she's a black woman card, even though she was an Indian woman before she decided to run for president. All of a sudden, she's black when Joe Biden picked her as vice president, right? She's black. Turns out black people weren't fooled by that. Black people were not fooled by the, oh, Trump, he's so racist. He hate black people. He go allow police to do whatever to black people and throw black people in jail. Turns out black men didn't fall for that. 1/4 of black men in Georgia didn't fall for that. 20% of black voters in Wisconsin didn't fall for that. They said, yeah, it's the economy, stupid. Turns out Latinos didn't fall for the whole, oh, a comedian made a joke about Puerto Rico, and that's so bad. Trump hates Latinos. Trump's going to deport every Latino in this country, right? Turns out they were smarter than that. They didn't fall for it. It's the economy, stupid. It's the border, stupid, right? It's the real problem, stupid. It's not identity politics. So now, again, instead of just admitting Democrats have just been a disaster when it comes to the real policies and the issues that people care about, instead of just admitting that, no, they double and triple down. It must be racism, sexism, hate, and bigotry, right? And now they're doing a whole lot of mental gymnastics. They're saying, now, well, apparently Latinos, they hate blacks. Latinos voted against Kamala Harris because they hate blacks. Although Latinos can be black, right? That's the crazy part about it. Okay, Latinos can be black. What are you talking about? Also, on top of that, they're saying, well, men, black men, well, it might not have been racism with them, but it was definitely sexism. There was a lot of sexism at play. They just don't want to see a woman be a leader. That was the problem. And then with white women, they'll say, oh, well, they're racist. With white men, they'll say they're racist and they're sexist, right? That's what they'll do. They'll go to each demographic group, each box. They'll say, okay, this is why it was sexism and bigotry, and this is not why it was policy, right? It was about everything except what the American people actually care about, except what actually affects American people's lives. It's not racism and bigotry. That's not what's affecting people's lives. That's not what people care about. That's what the media cares about. That's what the Democrats care about. But the American people care about the real issues, and Trump appealed to the real issues. Trump built a multiracial working class coalition not based off identity politics. Trump was not out here pandering in the same way that Democrats pander, right? Boo-hoo, whine, and cry, racism, and all this. No, he wasn't doing that. He was saying, these are my policies. This is how my policy can help you as an American. That's what he did, and it worked. Democrats, all they had was sexism, hate, demonizing people who refused to support Kamala Harris. Although Kamala Harris wasn't running a good campaign. She wasn't answering any questions. But you were the problem. Not Kamala Harris. You were the problem because you didn't want to support a woman that nobody voted for who can't answer any questions about why she's different from Joe Biden. Again, the most ironic part about Kamala losing is the fact that her campaign probably lost the day that she went on The View and told the world that she is no different than Joe Biden. That is the day that her campaign was officially over. And that's the hilarious part about it, right? That is the funny part about it. So as you can see, the cackling hens came on television dressed in all black like it's a funeral, right? Like the country died or something. And they're doubling and tripling down on the nonsense. Instead of reflecting and learning from their mistakes, no, they're going to double and triple down. And it's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse, guys, because they don't have the ability to self-reflect and to admit that, hey, we were wrong about this, that we shouldn't be smearing everybody as hateful and bigots just because they don't agree with us, but they just don't have the ability to do that. So, I mean, if this is what they're going to continue to do, yeah, we're going to have another 3 to 4 years of complete and total meltdowns from these people. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.